failure, whatever you have in life, failure is something that always happens to all of us. Believe me, it happens to everyone. And you should just look at it as a stepping stone to success. Learn from it rather than making it a deterrent for you not to move forward. And if you're really goal focused, very oriented, you will continue. There's those stories of J.K. Rowling, who's, all her things were rejected, and look at her, she became a huge success with, more than so many 580 million reprints of Harry Potter books, and look at the movies and things like that. So if your goal is there, you should just take failure as a stepping stone to success.
Welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I'm your host Sumita Mariam, and let's begin with a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year, and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Geetha Kannan is the CEO and founder of Equity for Women and Technology. He's a versatile entrepreneurial leader and a pioneer for the women in IT movement in India, with over 30 years of global experience spanning business, technology, and people. We are extremely happy and honored to have her on our interview series today. Welcome, Geetha. We're so thrilled to have you.
Hi, and the honor and privilege is completely mine. And I'm really happy to be here on this peopleHum platform.
It's absolutely a pleasure. So, moving on to the interview, ma'am. So the first question I had for you, can you tell us a little bit about your work with Equity, and what was your inspiration to start something like this?
As stories go, it's a pretty long story as to how I reached here. But to shorten it for our audiences, in 2004, I was asked to be a member of the Infosys Women's Network, because I used to work for Infosys at that time. And over time, listening to other women in technology having what they felt were issues in this space, and thinking that because I was in a position to help them, I then became the lead for the women's network at Infosys in 2006. And one of the things that I did was to have, start a conference there. In my opinion, I think that was the first ever Women in Tech conference in India. But it was hosted entirely on the Infosys campus in Bangalore. And we did get 99 people, which was quite considerable considering it was 2006. But one of the things when I did a review with my chairman, Narayana Murthy, was the fact that, if we want to really start this as a movement, it cannot happen because one company is pushing that. So it's much better if we have a platform that is agnostic, that can, really look at diversity and how women in tech can really be empowered. So he then reached out to NASSCOM, and that's, then I started partnering with NASSCOM, and that's how the NASSCOM Diversity Initiative started. And I'm talking about 2006. So I continued with my journey the specific focus has always been women in technology, because I relate more to them, and probably because I'm a woman myself, and have been in the technology industry for the last 30 years. And then when in 2012, a not-for-profit called Anita Borg approached me to be on their advisory council. And I said, okay, this is really an entry into what I really want to do with my life. So I was with them, started their Indian operations, and was probably the leading voice of women in technology in India for a very long time, which is almost 7 years now. And one of the things that when I was talking to somebody that really struck me was that they said an entrepreneur, when they go out and do something and start something on their own, it's really because they put their passion foremost. And that means you're putting really where your, money where your mouth is, kind of thing. So that really was a wake up call and saying that if I really was so passionate about women in technology and trying to make a real difference and to create a social impact in India, hey, I have to put my money where my mouth is. So I said, okay, so that means it's my resources, my energy, my time, and my team to, set up something that is totally focused on women in technology and mainly in the Indian space, because a lot of things that we bring are from the Western spheres of influence. It's not to say that they're not good. They're great ideas. They're great concepts. But India has a special place, and a lot of it has to be customized to cater to the Indian women. And that's how this whole thought was born. And why is it called equity? The W, of course, is no brainer. It stands for women. But equity is more that every organization professes that they would give equal opportunities. And I, for one, feel that equal opportunities is not good enough, because you might need something, I might need something, it may not be the same. For example, I don't have a sweet tooth, so for dessert, I may not like what you like, a nice, rich chocolate cake. I might need something else. So if I give equal opportunities for all, it means I give rich chocolate cake to everybody who comes home for dessert, right? So equity is looking at saying that we look at equity as a process, so different ways to reach the goal, which is equality in the end, of course, equal opportunities. But we're saying that it's the process can't be equal opportunities. The process is equity, and that's why it's called equity.
That's wonderful.
And it also stands on principles of equity as well as collaboration, because we believe that we should collaborate with as many organizations and people as possible. Then only, a very selfish need is that I want to see the needle really move in my lifetime.
Wow. I don't think it's very easy to, actually put your money where your mouth is, but I think you did a very good job, and you're such an inspirational figure to all these little girls out there. So I think that's fantastic. And, to think in such a way and say, I want to change something, that takes a lot of courage. So yeah, that's wonderful. That's simply wonderful. And, let's move our focus a little bit to business leaders. And all business leaders have one common goal, to foster a productive work environment. So, but the thing is, unfortunately, many of them fall short of it. Why do you think that is? How can we develop a long-term strategy to achieve these goals?
Well, it's interesting that you're bringing up productive work environment during these times when most of us are stuck at home or were stuck at home, because I remember when we were trying to bring work from home in the early 2000s, people were saying, I wouldn't even know in the next cubicle if anyone is working. How do I know if you're working at home? But one good thing, of course, is that technology is there to help us in that regard. So one aspect is that technology takes care of a lot of, but I think more than anything, what a business leader has to focus on is sharing that vision. Sometimes that vision is all in my head and it's not shared down with the team. And when you share your vision and the strategy, it becomes everyone's goal, not only your goal. So no one's going to say, yeah, you want to achieve this. So it's like it becomes everybody's goal. And then, of course, being from people who love engineering and all the math around it will always love to have these smarter goals. Where then, those goals are. Smart, everybody knows. They're specific, they're measurable, they're achievable, they're relevant, they're time bound. But the smarter goals is they get evaluated and they get readjusted, right? So if you're sharing those smarter goals with your team, there's nothing like it. And when you have these goals, then I think some of the things that we forget as leaders is that we don't celebrate the success of our short-term goals. It's like, okay, you've done it, let's move on. But you know what? Those small celebrations are important. And that's how you learn to, really empower and connect with your team and build a synergy through all that team engagement that happens. And makes you a very transparent and effective communicator as a leader also.
Yeah, that's so true. And, you're such a strong believer in technology, right? And How do you think we can leverage technology to the maximum to improve the employee engagement of a firm? And right now we are in this crisis and technology is as vital as ever. So what is your opinion on that? How can we improve the engagement of people leveraging technology?
Well, if you looked at like a decade ago, you'd notice that there wasn't much in that space of employee engagement. But the beauty of technology is it itself is its character and nature of it's always expanding. It's always innovative. It's always something there for you. So this ever expanding technology has given us more and more uses. And I think these times in particular have shown that we can do a lot of things online. There are online classes that are happening. So there is online learning that's happening. Virtual is the way to go, kind of thing. And there are many like sessions out there as to how you can be more exciting as a virtual speaker, kind of thing. So it's the virtual is the way to go in terms of the learning, and that's one way to engage with your employees. The other one is always to showcase role models as you go. And I've been like in webinars almost the entire this week of where we're connecting with employees and showing them role models so that they get inspired. Because I feel that, I think peopleHum talks about sound bites, but the same way is you need small bites of inspiration every day as to, continue going on and having that motivation to continuously engage. And the third thing that technology has done is there's enough software out there that it allows you to be collaborative in the kind of output that you achieve. So teams from anywhere in the world can get together and collaborate, and so the best and most innovative practices can come out, and so employees get engaged and more excited as a result. And of course, the flexibility of working from home is a great thing that technology has brought, that ensures that we have employee engagement at any time, even you're at the workspace or you're not.
Yeah, so as we like talk a lot about technology, let's move a little bit of focus to recruitment these days. So do you think technology is the answer to, tackle unconscious bias in recruitment?
Well, there's kind of some mixed reactions on that, but thing is that the computer algorithms that are being used in recruitment and in AI are getting more and more sophisticated. So I am sure that we are reducing the bias that happens in recruitment. But in the end, the recruitment is a very human process, right? It's all about what Malcolm Gladwell says. It's a blink of an eye. I decide I like you, right? So it's a human process. So some of it can't be completely eliminated, but with AI, that is definitely reducing. And with blind selection of resumes, that is also reducing. The ways that people look at keyword searches rather than the resume itself as to how it's written has also resulted in a lot of reduction in the bias that comes from hiring. So we are there in a positive way, but we're still not in a position where we can eliminate the bias completely.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And also, if I may ask you, why do you think, there are lesser women in technology?
This is the foundation of why I exist, right? Why there are lesser women. And I think it stems a little from your recruitment question, because it's, one of the things is there's a huge unconscious bias out there. And my favorite example, a layman's example, is that when you're driving down the road and you see someone put a right indicator and then turn left, 100% you will think that's a woman driver, right? And that's just an unconscious bias, thinking that women are bad drivers. And that bubbles up not in the driving thing, but it bubbles up in the workplace. And it's very, very mild and unconscious. The conscious bias, at least I think a lot of corporates have that under control because of sensitivity workshops, but the unconscious one is very hard to control. And it comes so, because, you look at it from your own perspective, that sometimes in your household, the patriarchal kind of system works. So you will look up to a male leader rather than a female leader. So it's all kinds of, but it's not that you are biased, but it's all bubbling in there because those stereotypes have been driven because of our background, because of our families, the way we've been brought up, the literature we've read, kind of stuff. So the first one is unconscious bias, why we have fewer women in technology. And why does this unconscious bias affect the women in technology as a number is because it's always you tend to hire people who look like you, who are like you, right? So now AI has come to try to reduce that bias, but this is like, if you're talking about 20, 30 years ago and forward then 10 years, 5 years ago. So not many men are hiring many women, right? So that was one of the reasons. And another reason is, like I told you, need those inspirational sound bites. And if I don't see ahead of me someone walking who's really like done the same things I've done, who've succeeded where I have failed, I have no role models to be inspired by. And we struggle every time with the female role model. And that inspiration doesn't come very readily if you're going to look at someone else and get inspired. And the third thing is, now there is many more sponsors within organizations, but the male champion or even the female champion of this whole thing of women in technology and organizations is taking off, but it's just taking off. So it's still on the rising like curve kind of thing. And so once those sponsors take off, it's going to be hopefully much better, but there are a lack of sponsors in that area. And the last one is, of course, the leaking pipeline. I mean, there's a lot of research around it. Personal reasons, whatever, we all drop off from the workforce at every given point in time. And so by the time you look at who entered and those who finally left, we don't have anybody right at the top. It's like 2%. So yeah, that's a sad truth. So we have unconscious bias, we have lack of female role models, we need more and more sponsors, and we have to stem that leaking pipeline.
Yeah. So do you think that, it is that reluctance to come out of an existing model that is, leading to all of this?
I remember one of my bosses used to tell me, you can't argue with success, right? So this model has been successful for organizations for so long. So why do I need the women? Right. And of course, there are many who say, yeah, they come, they take maternity leave, they, say work-life balance, they're not able to take the load that a male leader can take, kind of stuff. So it's a mixed bag. So you'll say, why do you want to argue with success? But of course, there's enough research on the other side to provide that, having diverse perspectives at the table always gives you better output. Having more women on the board always gives you better results. So we have to wait for the world to wake up.
That's right. So, moving our, focus a little bit again to the leadership part of it. So if you can advise the leaders, on how to translate feedback to impact, how would you advise them?
I think I remember when Hema Ravichandar used to be our HR head. She used to tell us that, you know what, you can do so much, and your effort could be like, like a mountain. But if you don't actually achieve any results, I mean, be prepared. Your feedback by your leader will be bad, because no one's going to look at the effort that you've put in to make something happen. They're going to say, okay, show me the results. And so some of the times that when leaders give their feedback, they should be giving feedback probably on a more continuous basis, so that people don't wake up at the end of the year and then discover, oh man, this is what's been happening. So a continuous kind of feedback loop with a lot of clarity, because sometimes you see it very clearly, but I can't see it from your perspective at all. And I say, that's what I was trying to do, but it didn't happen. But you would have said, you should have. So it's all about perspective. So that clarity can come in the communication that happens. And, and also, I think it always feels nice if the leader comes and tells you that, you know what, I know this happens so much, but I'm there with you, and I will walk it's like those footprints in the sand of time. You can have two people walking it together. It always makes us feel much stronger when you know that somebody else is looking out for you. Don't worry, I will tell you how it can be done. I'll be there if you want to take that risk. So you have a tendency of getting much more impact out of the feedback that you give, and your commitment has to come out as much as the employee's commitment, right? So it's just not the team member has to walk it alone, kind of.
Yeah, that is so right. And just to kind of wrap up the interview series, if you have any last sound bites that you would like to leave our audience.
Well, there are three things that I like to always say is that you know whether it's these times or any times, it always is very, very beneficial to have a network, whether it's a school network, a family network, working with people you've met at a conference or anything. You don't know how beneficial that can be, because by cultivating them throughout your lifetime, you really have role models out there. You get inspiration from them. You can reach out to them whenever you need help, and especially when these times is where mental well-being seems to have a little bit of a focus, but we don't give it that much importance to. It's like if you can reach out to your network, they'd be more than happy to help you. So always look for cultivating your networks. Is one thing that I would like everybody to look out for. And second thing is saying that failure, whatever you have in life, failure is something that always happens to all of us. Believe me, it happens to everyone, and you should just look at it as a stepping stone to success. Learn from it rather than making it a deterrent for you not to move forward. And if you're really goal focused, very oriented, you will continue. There's those stories of J.K. Rowling, who's, all her things were rejected, and look at her, she became a huge success with, more than so many 580 million reprints of Harry Potter books, and look at the movies and things like that. So if your goal is there, you should just take failure as a stepping stone to success. And the last thing I would like to say, especially in these times, is for us to all stay relevant, and especially in the technology world, it's very, very important to be ahead of the learning curve. Don't be with the curve, but be ahead of it. So keep on learning and look at opportunities wherever you can, where you can continue learning. So please network, treat failure as just a stepping stone to success, and to be ahead of the learning curve and keep learning every day.
That's wonderful. I mean, this last note of positivity is what our viewers need in these times of crisis. So thank you so much for that. And it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I mean, I had a lot of, I got a lot of knowledge, and I had a lot of fun during this conversation. So thank you so much for coming to our interview series and enriching us with your energy and all this information. Thank you so much for being on a series, and I will keep in touch with you. Have a great day.
Okay, and thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.